We have another speaker for you who is absolutely dynamic and somebody who has a message that hopefully a lot of Americans will hear. His name is Adam Brandon, and Adam is the president of FreedomWorks. You all know FreedomWorks, right? He's a grassroots service center to millions of activists who support smaller government, lower taxes, free markets, and personal liberty and the rule of law. He joined FreedomWorks back in 2005 and just worked his way up to the top, so now he's the president of FreedomWorks. But before that, he was a teacher, and he has a background as well in economics, having graduated from George Washington University and gotten his master's there in economics. He is an extraordinary man and a real thinker about where we're headed as a country and what matters and what's important for us to understand, and especially what's important to understand to win elections, because it's great to believe what we believe, but if we don't win elections, if we don't get people elected to office, we don't have much capacity to move the needle forward in the way that you might like to see it move forward. So I'm delighted to introduce to you Adam Brandon. He's the head of FreedomWorks, and he's also, you might be interested to know, a Cleveland Browns fan.
Thank you very much. I hope that doesn't cloud your opinion of me, that I spend my Sundays hopelessly watching a disaster of a football team, but I try to keep my insanity just limited to Sundays. So I know we have a very tight timeline here, and the presentation I want to give is a smaller version of something I've been giving for the last year, both to public audiences and also on the Hill to many of the people that you know. And this gets back to this, we have a big problem. Yesterday, something happened that never happened in American history before. Yesterday, we crossed over $100,000 a second in debt being tallied up. So when I'm done with my presentation, we'll have added $90 million to our national debt. Every 104 days, we add $1 trillion. The problem's not getting better, the problem is getting worse. So one other point that's just been so important to me is the failure of the red wave back in 2022. You should have smashed through in that election, but you didn't. And why didn't we? We failed to reach independence. We have a problem preaching beyond the choir. And there's 3 states that are going to matter in this upcoming election cycle. It's Pennsylvania, it's Michigan, and it's Arizona. So you are on ground zero. But if you fail to preach beyond the choir, we're not going to get there. So number one, this often shocks people. When you look at the number of people who are independent in America today, it's 49%. 26% are Democrat, 25% are Republican. The fastest growing demographic in America is independent. It's surging. So what's driving this? It's the rise of the millennials. Millennials are aged 28 to 43 years old. If you look at this map, just a few years ago, they were just about 40% of the electorate. This election cycle, 49% of your electorate will be millennial or below. This election will be the last generation where baby boomer generation is the dominant generation. It is now over. Millennials are going to dominate politics for the next 20 years. So every problem that you're discussing today, whether it's border, whether it's spending, millennials are going to be the dominant political group through the 2040s. It is up to them to solve the problem. So this is very important to understand. If you're going to be trying to reach these new audiences, try to understand where Americans get their news. How many of you watch Fox News in this audience? 1.2 million people watch Fox News every day. Every week, Joe Rogan is downloaded 14.9 million times. Think of that. When you look at, if you're over age 50, your primary source of information is television. If you're under 50, you do not watch TV. Cable news is going bankrupt. The head of CNN put out a memo to his staff a couple months ago that if they do not start to evolve away from cable news, they're going to collapse because the only demographics that are watching TV are 50 and above. So if you're going to try and reach people and you want to win an election, are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Are you on TikTok? That's where the voter is going to be in this cycle. And what's interesting to me, of all the money in politics, what do we spend money on in politics? On TV ads. Right now, we just did a poll that we're polishing up right now, a national survey. 6% of people over age 65 said they may change their mind on the vote. Okay, so only 6% of people over age, but your TV generation. Just a small handful of people may or may not choose who they vote for. Think of the amount of money that's going to be dumped in TV advertising. Voters under 40, a third of them say they're likely to change who they vote for between now and the election. So why are we spending all this time and money advertising to a group that already knows who they're going to vote for, yet we're ignoring the group that could actually move? And so when you're thinking about how you're doing your politics and you're trying to do your turnout, think of where these audiences are. So this is something that blows people away. Millennials. 77% of millennials believe they'll be better off a year from now than they are today. They're the most optimistic generation in American history. And why is that? They think problems are there to be solved. They think this is a great, incredible country. What is everyone bitching about? We have problems, let's solve them, let's get on. What the message works for them was Ronald Reagan Morning in America. They're not angry. They're not angry at all. They're optimistic. They're at early stages of household formation. What is the number one issue that matters to this demographic? It's affordability. It's not the border. It's not abortion. It is affordability. This is a generation that wants to be able, this is how radical they are. They want to buy a house, have kids, and buy a car and go on vacation. That's what they dream of. They're waiting for you to engage them on this. You want to win here in Pennsylvania? Start talking about issues that hit at them in their pocketbook where they are trying to become you. 77% are optimistic. They don't want anger. So we have a poll that we were able to, in our modeling, the top model, this is why polling is often wrong. Polling is based on a model called PVI, Partisan Voting Index, which says you're Republican or you're Democrat and does not account for this massive surge in unaligned independent voters. I'll give you an example of how this is wrong, and this is a hard one. You need to see numbers like, are you pro-life or pro-choice? And people say, I'm pro-life. Okay, the next question is, do you support abortion rights? And they would say yes. That's not contradictory. What they're saying is they are personally pro-life, but they are not going to tell you what to do. That's what the voter is saying. So when you start engaging with voters, understand it's not necessarily the first issue. It's like, how does that apply later on? And you can apply that with almost all issues. So the reality of when we're looking at modeling, and the modeling that we've built, is that the Democratic Party is overwhelmingly driven by identity politics, and that's race and gender. Republican voters most respond to culture war issues, but your swing voters' two main issues are what's called, this is the word they use for us, tolerance and choice. Tolerance means live and let live. You do you, let me do me. I don't care if you're gay, I'm not putting my pronouns on my email. That's tolerance. Choice. Choice is, I want more choices in retirement, more choices in healthcare, more choices in school. So that suburban swing voter that's going to determine the election is looking for a policy platform that is based on you do you, but give me more choices. If that is not a Reagan-esque message, I don't know what else is. So finally, I think there's been a lot of discussion about entitlements in this cycle. Remember I mentioned that $100,000 a second? What is the two most expensive things we spend money on in the United States? Social Security and Medicare. It's like 70% of the budget. So all the conversation we're having about cutting spending, the discretionary part of the budget, we're talking about less than 25% of the entire US budget. And so when you're looking at the problem, the younger generations know this. Look at this. Remember the third rail of American politics? 76% of millennials want to reform Social Security and Medicare. 76%. This cuts across every partisan break. And you're telling me that's the third rail? You want to win the next generation? Because what they know is that they're going to pay full price for everything and not get any of the benefits. That's why they're upset. That's why they're upset about affordability issues, because they're feeling the whole debt thing, the whole problem is going to come crashing down on them. And neither party right now is fully addressing the issues that this demographic cares about, which is affordability and spending. Yes, the next generation is actually the generation that truly cares about getting spending under control. And we should absolutely embrace that. That is the future. This is the next 20 years. So it's not just about trying to win an election in Pennsylvania right now. It's about trying to win a whole frickin' generation, the next 20 years of American politics. So with that, I appreciate the time. Normally when I've got lots and lots of other slides to share, and there's a lot of questions, but I hope if you take something away from what I'm saying is, when you're out there and you're trying to get candidates elected, if you are not talking to millennial swing voters, you're not talking to the people who are going to win and lose elections. So it's not, you've got to get comfortable talking beyond the base. Thank you very much.